This is round two, believe it or not. Leah, hey baby. My name's David. This is Teah. This is her blog, informational center on the not so secret space program that we're kind of finding out about and having memories and visions and a lot of different things happening. But it's 6/14/2020 for the date, and it's a nice day. It's sunny. I'm not gonna tell you exactly where we're at, but Leah, this is Leah. I'm crazy. And this is just continuation. If you're new, welcome. And this is a lot of information. This is heavy duty information. And this is mostly about Tia's kind of awakening or remembering. It's been going on for about 3 years. It's heavy duty. Like I said, we've been through a lot and we'll probably go through a lot more. But it's worth listening to everything. Um, I I'm supposed to be the interviewer, but I'm actually also part of what's going on here. But I'm still staying out of it a bit and allowing Tia, really, who has all the information, the bulk of the information and of of knowledge and different views that she's going to be expressing and putting forward. And we've had some really nice comments of really positive energy, which has been wonderful, and I'm sure it'll just keep staying that way. And it's really in-depth information, and there's a
Thank you.
lot. Yeah, it is. It's detailed, in depth, and we have a lot going in our lives, and this is something that's been really worthwhile doing,
Yeah.
and it's been very positive, and it's to release knowledge and ideas. Not that we know everything, but we know a lot, and it's to help people with their own information and feeding in maybe a lot of the cracks that have not been filled in a lot.
Yeah.
And we're very honest and open and um, not really holding back, even though we are holding back. There's a lot of stuff that's being held back because it's just not appropriate or not ready yet. So you
Yeah.
can only just, go at a certain pace.
Mm-hmm.
But, but so what? So great. And anyways, the format is I'm supposed to interview and intervene and work along and work with Tia. So we do have sometimes a little bit of a dialogue, or I'm asking Tia some questions.
Mm-hmm.
So just so you know that um, that's how it works here.
Right.
So, but most of it is Tia decides on the information and the content. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
oh, oh, oh.
Okay. No
Okay.
longer paused.
Yeah, no longer pause. So we had this pause because the dog was going by and Leia goes crazy. So, anyways,
Yeah.
so with that being said,
Yeah. Let me introduce the topic here. So I want to talk about mind control slash group mind control and alters today. And um, this subject is a little harder for me to talk about more because it's just kind of weird, you know. Um, so bear with me as I kind of stumble through it. Um, but a lot of it, I want to preface and begin by talking about some of the things I've learned about, like, kind of the human being, human nature, the nature of thought. And I have talked a lot about the memory controlling devices, which really are mind controlling devices, right? That was, I think, part 8, where I go into memory erasing tech. And I was realizing, I want to clarify that the black box I talked about, like on the Nugget space station, um, I was realizing after I had talked about it, and that's the nature of this stuff, you guys, is that I am remembering more and more. It's like things are being clarified, and so this is a process, and I'm definitely going to get some things wrong or kind of off a little bit, and so I just that's why I came up with the memory grading system so that you guys are aware of that. Okay. But I was realizing that the black box on the Nugget space station that I remembered, it, it's it's actually more like a cloud storage device. And I started remembering more that they have cloud storage devices, and I think that that is actually a lot of how, at least for me, they're able to transport me to so many different planets, especially for the splices that I've gone through currently, where uh, because well, this is going to be a jumbled up mess because I'm trying to put it in an ordered way. So so for me, okay, because I have talked about thought being matter and they can inject it into your head, much like in Total Recall. And like I think I mentioned before with Total Recall that they're selling people memory experiences, and what you don't realize is that those memory experiences are actually somebody else's memories. So they sell memories. Okay. Now,
So for
oh,
Total Recall, because we always assume people have seen all the
right,
movies,
right,
there
right.
was Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then there was another one with Colin Farrell, decent actor.
Mm,
And so there was a newer version.
yeah,
But if you haven't seen it, look it up or go to YouTube and get some pieces of it and
yeah.
check it out. But they're on, yeah. So they're inject. You go into a chair. They're injecting.
Hmm.
Something goes wrong. He's not sure if he's real or not. It's
Hmm.
real. So it's a
Hmm.
really good movie
Yeah,
on that sense
yeah.
and pretty potent. But anyways, just wanted to bring that up.
But, and especially like with memories, and that makes me realize is that they can do this with skill sets. Okay, so they can, and actually, this was a memory a long time ago, but I remember being in one of their universities where I was learning, and what they actually do is this. Actually, I remembered this twice, being through this process twice. One where I was on Typhon, was what I believe the planet is called. A lot of weird stuff on that one, but anyways, but another is a different university, but they actually will inject the knowledge into your head, and then you go through a process of utilizing the information. And so memory is it's probably actually a chemical. Okay, I mean that's just my assessment because you actually have to have certain thought receptors. And so they do like this pretty massive profiling of individuals to see what their nature is, see the type of personality that they have, because you can't just inject anybody with certain information. So, like, and they have like massive profiling and scanning systems. And so, one thing that I remembered, and they use this technology for security. It's very heavy duty security. And I've actually that is a at least a B, if not an A quality, the different types of securities that they have. But when they're doing the brain scans, like the Illuminati territory on Mars, I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to use these words, right? I don't want to get dinged by the
Yep.
algorithm. Okay, but anyways, but I remember that security when you're entering that territory, you have to walk for 2 miles straight to get into it. And the whole time they're scanning your brain. Okay. And I remember they had these drones flying around me, who are scanning you as well. You're being scanned by drones, but you're also being scanned along this long walkway corridor. And the drones are weapons, and they will shoot you and kill you on the spot if they deem you a threat. But the thing about the reason why they're scanning you is because so much of this technology can be fooled. Okay, and that's another thing that I could talk about when it comes to the breakaway. But anyways, but it cannot be fooled. Like the one failsafe is that it can only be fooled temporarily. So they continue to put in longer and longer security protocols where they scan you for longer and longer periods of time. And that's where this particular territory on Mars um,
I'm sorry.
is like you literally are walking for 2 miles, which is it's a long walk. And I actually did have a memory where they actually made it longer. It was like 3 miles at one point, where they're just scanning you the whole time to make sure that you are really you. Okay. But anyways, and that mind scans your brain scan. It's completely unique, more unique than your fingerprints or any aspect of you, um, how your mind works. And so certain people's minds, everybody's unique, and everybody's mind is totally uh, different. And like me, I'm more of an emotional thinker, right? And I talked about that, and what that really means is being like a intuitive and
We can.
telepathic and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But Um, but they can take skill sets. So let's talk about like a cooking skill set. And if you have the right kind of mind, then you can accept that information. Um, so think of it like you have thought receptors, okay? So just like chemical receptors, the way your body has to work to function, your mind has the same um, aspect to it, okay? And so when they inject you with a skill set, you then have to work with that knowledge to make it your own. So it's like you're bonding, you're continuing to bond with it. And so the reason why this is important, okay, is because the way my mind works is that I know that certain alters, okay, so if you want to look at a memory matrix, okay, um, or skill set, right, as an alter, okay, you can look at it like that. And I can remember, and I don't want to get into being too crude here or anything, but they do a lot of sex doll stuff. I have been a sex doll. Um, and I won't I won't go into that kind of stuff, but anyways, but I know that certain altars for me wear off like in 45 minutes, okay, because it doesn't actually absorb, and then there's a point where it won't work on me anymore. So, but it is an interesting experience to have these memories where I think I'm somebody, I think I'm someone, and for me, like when it came to a lot of the sex doll stuff, I was programmed thinking that this person was my spouse, and and then weird things will start to come through, and I'll start like thinking about the day we got married or something like that, but there's no memory for that, and so then that kind of stuff starts to break down. But anyways,
Can I bring something up?
yeah,
So a lot of people know this, and some people don't. But when people have organ transplants,
right,
they'll start having different thoughts, different cravings, different
right,
thinking,
right,
memories of things.
right.
So that's whole organs, for
That's
instance.
interesting. And on
But whoa,
that
whoa, whoa,
note,
whoa, whoa,
but
whoa,
they also
whoa.
have to accept it or reject it, right?
Sometimes they reject it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But let's say they accept, like you're talking. Okay,
Mhm.
but what if you could just take one cell
Mm.
of somebody else,
Mhm.
of whatever they do,
Right.
or one bit of a fluid or know which fluid,
Mhm.
and put it into another person?
Mhm. Mhm. Well, what
So why
about
does it have to be all I'm sorry, the whole organ
right,
systems?
right.
So
Yeah.
you know what we do for, and
Right.
so that's kind of
Mhm.
what you got me thinking. So
Mm. Mhm.
on,
Cool. That's a good thought.
yeah,
Yeah, I like that a lot.
it's crazy.
Yeah. But anyways, so one altar, if you want to call it that, and so um, about the altar, okay, let me define that a little bit, at least the way I see it. And I use that term because I hear it a lot. I don't really like the term personally, um, but I haven't come up with a better one. So maybe I should just roll with it. But the thing, okay, what I've learned about myself and about the nature of human beings, remembering all this crap, is that we don't really realize how much our personality is a product of our environment. And I was thinking about how there's this like grand debate in our culture, if you want to call it that, about nurture versus nature, and how the personality it's when I start having all these memories, I went, you know what, it's not one or the other, it's both.
I always say
It's yeah, it's not one or the other, it's both. And it's just like anything else in life where
that. But that's another lie where they try to say it's
right,
only this or
when they're
only
putting
that.
two ideas against each other and they're making
Yes,
you choose
yeah,
when it's neither
right.
or both,
Well, that's yin and yang. People think those are opposing forces.
right, yeah,
Yeah, so it's you
yeah,
don't know anything about Chinese knowledge.
yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, so anyway, so what I've learned is that in certain that my person I'm a very authentic person, genuine, blah blah blah. People have described me as that my whole entire life, but that when the environment around me changes, it does bring out certain different aspects of my personality, And I do think differently based on these factors. Okay. So and so with that being said, if you want to look at that manifestation as an alter, so be it, right? That's fine. It's still me. And that's the thing that I realized with all this stuff is that um, I've had to grapple with the different aspects of who I am and who I was in all these different situations, and really being manipulated to like massive degrees. Like wow, it's utterly amazing. But like for instance, like one security building I remember going into, and in this particular place, I was actually um, given the skill set of a lawyer. Okay, and this was to be a spy. Um, I remember them scanning me, and they scan so that they can see how your mind works. Okay, and they can scan and see how many thoughts you're holding in your head at one time. They can see how quickly you generate new thoughts, and they can also see how fast your mind is moving between the thoughts. And so if your mind is especially fast and things like that, you're they're automatically going to start trying to bump you up into the elite because they want to start using you. But they really look at certain people as only having certain capacities for certain jobs. And that apparently, I'm capable of being a lawyer, okay? And so they had programmed me with the lawyer knowledge, and I remember that that they scanned me, or not scanned, but then they do an intensive interview to see if you have the knowledge um, of their laws. And I remember, you know, anyways, it just doesn't matter, but they have a really weird system of laws where it's like possession really is everything. Like theft is basically allowed in their culture because of all the technology in it. They know that just about anything can be faked. There really is no such thing as evidence in their culture. And so the only way you can ever actually prove theft is if you're literally caught red-handed. And so there's a massive culture of like high-end thieves who are really experts at avoiding this technology. And if you can get an item off of somebody's property, then it's considered basically to be yours. Okay, so anyway, so that's just like a weird side note. But so I talked about speed of thought and all that kind of stuff. Um,
Talking about the emotions
talked
mirroring.
Yeah, I talked about the thought receptors. One key. Okay, so I want to talk about one key way that I have been controlled and am being controlled, and so I do believe that at least at this point in my growth as a person, that I'm pretty brittle when it comes to this type of programming. Um, and so I don't think I accept probably any new personalities at all. And so one thing that they've been doing to me is that they keep splicing me in the breakaway, um, some for fairly long periods of time, some I think for very short, to get me into a place to generate the thoughts that they want me to have. Okay. And so I went through a time period recently where I just kept feeling so alone. Like I don't have anybody in my life. I'm alone. I don't have anybody. And that's not true at all. Okay. I have David, I have Leah, I have a lot of family where I live. I come from a big family, obviously as like an ex-Mormon so anyways, um, a lot of my family's Mormon and Catholic. So I have a lot of family, but it was just something just entrenched. I couldn't get it out of my head. And I eventually started asking David, like, okay, wait a minute, something's going on here. What's going on? And and that that night when I started probing, I had a very clear memory where I had a splice where I was living in the breakaway, and I was completely by myself. I had nobody, and I had a decent job that I liked well enough, that really consumed my time and energy. And but the feelings that it generated inside of me was just this massive separation and loneliness and isolation. And because and I really look at them doing this as a means of using my ability to remember against me, right? So they process me, they're bringing me back and forth, and of course I have no conscious memory of this life. So then the subconscious feelings are coming through because I did generate those feelings. Those are my thoughts. So they come through and they surface. And as soon as I realized that, and I had remembered that, gone. All of those feelings of loneliness just like gone, totally gone. And that's actually what my necklace is about. And I won't go too much into it, um, but the subconscious is so powerful. And at some point, I probably should talk a little bit about the subconscious too. But I, what I realize is the subconscious is kind of like this timeless self. And there are all these different parts of me that have experienced all these different things, and that a lot of these things need to be resolved. A lot of these pains, problems, conflicts, and they keep surfacing, right? Because I am a person who's always sought health and healing. I want to be a whole person. Okay, I want to be complete. I want to be happy, stuff like that. So I've always been somebody who's tried to empower myself through health, through healing, and what I've learned is that when these subconscious things come through, that there's a part of me that I need to acknowledge about myself that I haven't. And so, and for instance, like what I think I mentioned in the first video, part one, I remember children, okay? And I don't, I'm going to get a little personal here. I don't have children right now in this life. And I do think that actually this has been a tactic used against me because I want children. Um, and remembering them and not having them and not knowing what happened to them and all this stuff, it's been very hard on me. But I've had to acknowledge that there is, if you want to look at the archetypes, there is a mother inside of me that is suffering for her lost children. But if I can remember that and acknowledge that, okay, that there is this part of me that is existing, then it's like that part of me heals and it calms down. And so I think that if I can be used as any kind of a microcosm, right, for the world, and I want to acknowledge that I think that this is actually largely happening to all of humanity, that we have a lot of subconscious trauma that is occurring right now. And that it's really, I mean, if people want to know what to do, okay, to help this problem, we really need to acknowledge the situation. And I think if people just go through the process of healing themselves, that you're doing so much work that will benefit all of humanity. But we need to understand this aspect of ourselves and be willing to open up the subconscious and the subconscious conflicts and desires that are in there, okay? Because it is part of who we are, is this multidimensional aspect of what it means to be human, okay? And everything that we are enduring, and how we keep getting through this weird compression suppression process. But anyways, okay, so why did I bring that up? But anyways, Okay, so I wanted to talk about mind control, especially group mind control. And I'm not going to get into current events or anything like that. Okay, this is something that Dave and I were just talking about it. This is something that's like always constantly going on. Um, how they're controlling us on a mass scale. And but what's interesting is I had this recent memory. This one is like 3 weeks old or so. Um, where so one of my alters is Kyah, is what I call her. And I'm not sure that every memory I'm associating with her is correct. That they're all Kyah, but she is an orphan. So she really is alone, street kid, who has learned to survive, and she has been used in the breakaway as an agent, spy, um, uh, and they're doing. And see, that's the weird thing. There's so many layers to this, right? So in the breakaway, she was being used the way that I was used here on Earth in the military. So she's being used in the same way. So, like I was saying, there's all these layers and depths to all of this, and but this particular, and I'm pretty certain that this memory is Kyah, and I can usually tell by how I think. Um, and Kyah has sacrificed
Yeah.
everything, um, all of her, all of the kind of innate desires that I have for family and um, everything else that I value. Okay, I value independence to a large, great extent, but Kyah has sacrificed everything else that I associate with myself for independence because she's lost everything, and that's how she's learned to survive. Okay, so this particular memory, um, and it's I think stories are fun, right? You guys like stories, you know.
Everybody loves a story.
So and what's weird is she's wearing a dress in this one. And I'm in this really kind of dangerous place, so I don't really know why I'm wearing a dress. But okay, so Kyah, me, whatever, wearing a dress, and I'm in a cave, and this cave is granite, and the in the breakaway, and what's weird is when I had this memory, it opened up another memory where I actually built this floor, but there's this really crazy floor um, that is like if the cave is like this big, there's a floor that was built right in the middle of the cave, and it was this light, man. It's kind of crazy. I'm glowing, but anyways, but if you can imagine like a crutch, and how it can expand, like the crutch, when you have a broken leg or whatever. Um, they built these kind of strange poles that you can go like this, and it wedges up against the wall, right? And so they have these struts. Is that a good word, to strut? Okay. And what's interesting about this floor is that these struts were only like every 3 feet. And then they built these panels that, it had like a, you know, thing that goes on the strut and then like a little piece of floor. And they were just layered almost kind of like shingles on a house, on a roof, the way they were layered. And so they built this massive floor in this cave, and it was basically used as a junkyard. There was just like all sorts of metal everywhere, and they were all just pieces and fragments, almost like they had been blown up. Nothing was charred or anything like that. But what's interesting is, so because of the nature of the altars and the way they're programming you or activating you. So Kyah is a genuine altar that they used, that was built after being tortured. Okay, and so she's definitely like a very strong aspect of me, if you want to call it that. And I'm actually actively breaking her down, and um, I really began to realize that this aspect of my nature was surfacing probably about 6 months ago when I just totally freaked out, and I was planning on uh, abandoning my entire life. Like I was gonna bolt. And that's when I realized I was really working from a different set of values. And once I had realized that I was working from a different set of values, that's when I realized that this is one of my altars. So, anyways, okay, so um, so where was I? Sorry, I'm getting a little preoccupied with what you're doing. um, okay, my memory. Okay.
Sorry.
So what's weird about this is I'm actually with a famous person who is a B actor, if you want to call it that, a fairly prominent B actor or TV actor, right? I like, TV typically better than movies, but I like long sagas. But anyway, um, but
Down, down,
he has been
down,
hired, or
down.
you know what? I don't think he was hired. He was like in cahoots with, some of the mucky mucks, and um, and uh, he was on a treasure hunt, and I had been hired the way that they hire people, as a doll who had been programmed or reactivated, and I was used a lot for my intuitive abilities. So I was used to kind of develop a creative spark. Um, I've been used by a lot of famous people. Okay, I'll just leave that at that. But anyways, but he was on a treasure hunt, to find the remains of this ancient ape that they believe they came from. And this ape is a carnivore. I'm sorry, not a carnivore. He's a cannibal. Yes, this ape is a cannibal.
That's carnivore too.
Yes, but they saw this cannibalism as like a great trait, that this ape was willing to eat his own species. And this ape lived in this cave, and what's weird is I actually remember the name of it, and I wrote it down in my other notes. I guess I should bring those when I do these videos, but it was like saltini or saltini. It was something like that. Okay, and and these remains, these bones, are really valuable to them, and they were looking for these 8 bones. And I had some sort of scanning device, much like a metal detector, and I'm going through and I'm scanning this floor, trying to find these deposits of these ape remains. And I actually had found 3 different deposits in this weird cave. And the thing about like this floor, okay, as I'm working with it, it's really old, and the panels actually have become like buckled and brittle, and they've become warped a bit. So it's actually very dangerous walking on this floor, but not so dangerous, that you can't do it. It's just that there are areas where there's no floor, or there's metal that's jagged and it's up. But you have to be careful in this whole place, anyways, because it's like a junkyard.
So this is underground.
Yeah, this is underground, or I think it's probably in a mountain, some sort of mountain. Yeah, because it was granite. It was like this really white gray cave. And I could see that some of the cave spires, like underneath the floor, were these, I don't know what they're called. Like
Stagolite
like
or
yeah, exactly.
I'm not.
Something like that. Ask a geologist what that crap is.
Look it
Not
up.
not me.
Look it up.
But anyways, but
Yeah.
it had these spikes coming from the ground that were really tall, which is why they built this floor over it. And that these ape remains were in a few different places, and I can still see the place in my head, and I can still remember where the ape bones were. And of course, a big fun part to all of this memory is that I remember being raped by this famous person. And that's how I was used, right? Because they look at, oh, your mind's just going to be erased. And so you get all of these psychopaths and sociopaths doing this stuff. And they just look at it as like a bonus, you know? It's like, oh, I can do whatever I want with her. So that's how that memory ended, was me being freaked out of my mind. So anyways, so that's the nature of remembering, is it's very difficult. But okay, the reason why this is important is that I remembered with this how to control somebody on an individual level, okay, which is something that Kyah did, okay, she's a spy. Um, and so I want to talk about this, okay. And a lot of this has, you know, like the reason why I'm talking about this because it's the nature of the human mind, but humanity is telepathic, okay. Maybe we don't see that in ourselves. Maybe we can't do voice to voice type of telepathy, okay? But we are telepathic. It's one of the ways we connect with one another, okay? And so what Kyah would do, this was her technique, I think that she developed, by the way, um, and I think that might have actually been discerned. Anyways, glowing chin. Um, no, it's just funny. Okay.
It is funny.
Anyway, so, um, but what she would do, okay, is that, okay, what I remember what I would do is that when I had a target and I wanted to get them to do something that they wouldn't normally do, okay, this is what I would do. I would look at the target and I would assess what emotions that they are capable of at a high level. And so if you want to look at our emotional nature is like having like zero emotions, low, medium, high. And then let's talk about this as like high intensity emotion. That, and what I remember is that most people are only really capable of like a super high intensity emotion, um, that they can only really experience about three very high intensity emotions, 3 to 5. And I remember that very rare people might be able to experience like 10 emotions at that level. But most people, like, you know, they experience all emotions, but their capacity for each emotion is different. And one key thing is that I do remember is that like pretty much everybody is afraid of dying. So if you can get anybody into a high frenzied level where they're afraid of death or it's linked to death, okay, then you can control them. Okay. So anyway, so what I would do is I would assess a person and try and determine what emotions they were capable of at the high intensity level. And I remember this one target I had was this young, bubbly girl, and she's kind of dumb and just and young and you know that kind of mind, right? Really talkative, really chatty, and I was telling David about this beforehand, but I think what I wanted her to do was to end a friendship and to harass somebody. And I was like, you know, that's the nature of a lot of this crap is that it's so petty a lot of times. The way that they manipulate people, I mean,
But
is,
that was your mission,
yeah, exactly.
to get her to do this thing.
Yeah, but was to antagonize somebody and hurt them like that. And so, and so
Scatterbrain? We said dicks. It's not a nice word.
not really
Scatter?
not really scattered,
Just bubbling
but
and just.
but her mind did move fast.
Yeah, sure.
And
Yeah, yeah.
okay. And so, okay, so what I did is decided to do was to target her on that emotion, if you want to, or emotional state. Okay, and so I get myself in that frame of mind. Okay, and I go up to her, so I have to be in that emotional state. Okay, and I go to her, and I'm talking about something. I start talking about something really emotional, and I get her up a notch or two. And then when that happens, okay, and this is what I remember, when that happens, when you're connecting with somebody on an emotional level, the same emotional level, is that if you're the initiate, or the one who initiates, then the other will see you as them. So there's a telepathic link that is made where they begin to think that you are them. And so when that happens, and she was finally connecting with me on that level, I was then able to manipulate her. And so and I did get her to hate this person, to end the friendship, and to antagonize this person. And who was the real target, right? So what I want, the reason why I'm bringing this up, because I really want people, whatever, I really want people to know about this nature of humanity, of how we work, and that we are actually all connecting with one another, but we may not realize it. Okay. Um, I want people to understand that when they're in those high emotional states, you might be connecting telepathically with somebody else. Okay. And you might be associating that as your own voice, okay, as your own mind. And a part of what is occurring is that there's a lot of quote unquote proxy magic going on. Okay. So just think about that for a second.
It's a potent subject that Tia's talking about and that
Yeah.
we talk about.
Yeah.
And, all this is just something to absorb and think about
Yeah.
and and decide is, what are you even saying?
Mm-hmm.
But what we're saying is,
Mm-hmm.
and I joke a bit, but
Mm-hmm.
like the GI Joe, knowing's half the battle. If
Right.
you
Oh,
know,
I think it's 75 or 80 or
I know
90% of the
it's all
battle.
the battle actually.
Mm-hmm.
If you know or don't know,
Mm-hmm.
but we're, there's so much. If you want to believe this, and this is everything that we ever even talk about,
Mm-hmm.
is that's where you enslave people. It's not in their bodies. I mean, sure, but it's in their minds. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's what I was saying earlier about bad food or what you watch or triggering.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing this shit.
Yeah.
It is, it's a frenzy and it's
Mm-hmm.
being ramped up.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
forget, put the facts aside and just look at what I'm saying. I'm not saying put the facts aside. I'm saying that's what they're doing. Is like screw the facts,
Right.
whip the world into a frenzy instead of a lot. Think on your own, decide on your own. I
Yeah.
guess I don't know. I mean, I'm not
I'm
saying
not
anything that's
saying to
so.
not be emotional.
I'm
I'm
not saying
saying,
that either. I'm saying, but is it really what you're really feeling? Is it, or is it what is being manipulated?
yeah, I'm
Is
saying
that
like,
what you're saying?
I'm saying I think it's important for people to realize that when you're in a high emotional state, you're more receptive to other thought.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay. And you know how I was talking about with thought and receptors and all this stuff? Okay. That maybe in a way, high intensity emotion creates new receptors. I don't know.
I mean, there's a good part to that, sort of,
Well,
in a sensory level of,
it is how we grow as
yeah, that's what I'm
individuals. You know,
saying.
perhaps it is the nature of evolution
But
in
we
that
got to
way.
be careful of what you're receiving
Right. And you got to realize, okay, and I have
because
refrained from this idea personally, okay, what I'm about to say, but I've come to accept it, is that
careful what you're going to say.
what is occurring is a game, okay? And I hate that. Life is not a game,
That's what I'm
but
saying.
it's been turned into a game,
And they know
okay?
the higher than what you even think
Mhm.
are doing this,
Yeah.
are manipulating your emotion, your mind, your spirit
Right.
through the emotion, through the high intensity
Right,
emotion.
exactly.
And you think
Yeah.
you're the one who's, but is it really? It's powerful stuff we're talking about. It's crazy
Mhm.
stuff.
Mhm.
It's mind control. It's what you were
Yeah.
talking about
Yeah.
today. So,
Yeah, and it's interesting.
anyways,
Like one distinct thing about this whole mind control stuff is, um, is that they're really the high tech stuff, and then there's the low tech stuff. And the low tech stuff I really consider a manipulation of human nature. Like they're using just how we work as beings,
That's what I'm
as
saying.
people against us.
Why even
Right?
use high tech if you can just use low tech?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
You know, keywords
Mhm.
telling you this, that.
Mhm.
You know, even the virus thing we thought was, to me, is an emotional.
Right.
People are panicked. They're freaking.
Yeah.
They're not. They want you. It's anyways.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
So in other words, don't be played. Don't be a domino, right? And I don't think we can really not be dominoes unless we really know what's going on, right? And what the game is and how it's being played and sort of what the rules are, you know?
And to intervene,
Mhm.
and I've been kind of quiet today, is to always go back to really make good decisions on, especially diet
Mhm.
and going out and food. And I want to keep talking about this
Mhm.
because I do believe there's control through the food.
Oh yeah.
But
And it's not just chemical, and this is something
I,
that this is something I haven't actually outright
but I'm
remembered.
just saying. Wait, let me
But
finish.
imagine you could put thought into food.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Is we're getting heavy, but through food, and then really exercise, which more people are doing, but even internal exercise, which we
Mhm.
believe
Yeah, I
in.
do a lot of qigong. It's
Chinese stuff is very, very
yeah.
good. There's other things. If you
Mhm.
even learn like an easy kata over the YouTube, and just for opening your energy, I think it's very, very, very good.
Mhm.
And so, along with regular exercise,
Mhm.
and then really being discerning on things you watch,
Mhm.
and what you're seeing, and what really is going on.
Yeah.
But I really think the basal
Mhm.
way of controlling people and really really getting deeper into stuff
Mhm.
of um, injected emotions into is in the food,
Oh yeah.
and
Oh
going
yeah.
out and holy,
Food is
there's no doubt in my
huge.
mind. Yeah, there's no doubt
Yeah.
that
Mhm.
that's what's happening
Mhm.
and causing
Mhm.
fear and anger and aggression.
Oh yeah.
And oh, and the last thing I was going to say is we're, you don't know us about what we really do, but we're extreme believers in herbal medicine
Mhm.
and really bolstering your organs in,
Mhm.
I don't like the word detoxing, but clearing, and
Mhm.
we know a lot about that. Let's just put it that way, and believe in it, and
Mhm.
it can really create internal power and shields against things that are really out to get you.
Mhm.
And it's not paranoid. It's like, man, oh
Mhm.
man, oh man. Just look at ingredients. Just look at
Mhm.
food. Just companies. They're not on your side. So
Mhm.
you got to be on your own side.
You do.
So you've got to enhance your own life through
Mhm.
these really basic things that you can control for the most part,
Mhm.
and that will better that'll better yourself. That can better, and then you can better humanity. Have clearer thinking.
Right.
If you're eating foods that are boggling your mind and
Mhm.
putting phlegm and congestion into your brain and into your sinuses,
Mhm.
along with other things that we believe that are
Mhm.
in the food, but just that alone,
Mhm.
it's a big deal. It affects your
Mhm.
spirit, your chi, so many things are that you can do on your own.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
yeah,
There are a lot of things.
you can do.
Mhm. There are a lot of
Don't give
things.
in. Don't eat the crap. Don't buy the
Mhm.
crap at Costco. Don't buy the deep fried garbage. Don't go to just because the
Mhm.
line, the what do you call it,
Mhm.
the fast food places. Don't do it. Don't go. Screw them. Let them
Mhm.
go out of business. Let them put out a food that actually is good for you. You know,
Mhm.
green juice bar. There are none. But this garbage it's poisoning the mind, the spirit, and the body, and
Mhm.
it's very, very powerful. T and I, we fight it.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's hard, um, but we're aware. So, anyways, okay,
Yeah. We work real hard to make our own food
you got
every day,
yeah.
But anyway. All right. Well, thank you again. I think this actually flowed a bit better than I thought it was going to. Hopefully, it made sense and all that. It's a lot of information and some weird stuff. Um, but I just once again appreciate you guys watching um, and just your really your positivity. It's. it's really great. It's really great. So thank you again. All right, until next time.